Advisory work group will be following the open meeting requirements of Bagley-Keene. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Members of the public can comment on an agenda following member discussion, but we ask that you limit your time. For items not on the agenda, the public will have an opportunity to address the group, but you are asked to limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you are filling in for a committee member, please answer for the person you are filling in for and state your first and last name. I will now start with roll call. Jim McDougall.
Here.
Carlos Camarena. Deborah Hobblestad.
Here.
Neil Machuca.
Michael McGuire here from OPR on behalf of Neil.
Thank you, Michael. Paul Glushko. Max Mortis. Oh,
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Is here.
And Max is here.
And Paul, you're here too, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nancy Watkins. I see her. You saw her.
Yeah, I'm here. And just to let you know, Molly Barth is on. I'm going to stay on as long as I can. Depending on how long this call goes, I may have to drop and she'll stay on in my place.
Thank you. Dave Winokur.
I'm here. Thanks.
Robert Marshall. Anthony Powers. Yana Valachovic.
Good afternoon.
Chris Sachoa.
This is Nick Camerata for Chris.
Thank you, Nick. Dory Beats. Carrie Woodrow.
Here.
Joe Irvin.
Here.
And Caroline Thomas Jacobs.
Here.
Perfect. Thank you. Quorum is 9 people, 50 plus 1. Quorum is established today. We will now move on to agenda review. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Celeste. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review the agenda. It's not very long, but looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
This is Deborah. So moved.
Nope, I got 2. So I saw Terry.
I'll second it. I'll second it, Terry.
Okay, you got that, Celeste? No, who was first? I'm sorry.
I can move Deborah Halberstadt.
Okay, Deborah, thank you. And then Terry, second. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Very good. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, hopefully, again, everybody had a chance to look at the past meeting minutes. We'll also be looking for a motion to approve those.
Nancy Watkins, so moved.
Let's see. Is there a second?
Joe Irvin, second.
Thank you, Joe. Any discussion about the past agenda? Minutes at least, anyway. All right, seeing none, all those in favor, aye? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. So just an update, since you've seen the last document, we did take it to the WMAC meeting. They got to review it. We got positive feedback, more praise for everybody getting it out and getting it done, and appreciative. Not really any substantial comments from that. After our last meeting, we did get comments from MJ, who's been, as a public person, paying very close attention to this and been very interactive with the group. and we added a few of those comments in there. Some of them were just responding back to her. And then there was some comments just internally. Dave Saps is reviewing them. Again, just internal things. The group can take them or leave them. Just suggestions, nothing that we have to accept. There were a few word changes he had here and there, and then Jan and I spent maybe an hour a week or two ago going through those, and we just took the ones that were just help provide a little more clarity for certain things, but definitely did not change any of the intent. So we were trying to make sure that didn't happen. So with that, if we can we want to start here at the top and just dig through them. There's not too many. I know Nancy has several comments in here. I looked through it a little bit ago. And like I said, we left numerous of us in there. Jan and I were like, well, we don't really know if this is something that we need to decide. So we left those in there for the group. Oh, we got a couple more folks on, Celeste, also just for you. Okay. So with that, if the group thinks that's a good way to just go through these few comments, we go through them, keep them, move them, and then at the end, we'd be looking for a motion for final approval of the document. So like I said, we just highlighted a few things. So the first one there was just some more clarity, use consistent science-based, science-supported terminology to describe risk components. I think, Nancy, you added in there a few words. Yes, it's mostly around those. I don't, it's really about the data. So I think maybe if we just took out the word components and added data might make it a little bit clearer. Deborah, I see your hands up.
Yeah, sorry, so the document I'm looking at online, I don't see these comments. But I'm trying to find, maybe I'm just on the wrong page. But oh, there, okay, sorry, I was on the wrong page.
Oh, yeah, the first comment, if you're following along on the Google Doc, the first comment starts on page 8. So I just started us here instead of going through, sliding through. So if you're trying to follow along, page 8 is where it starts.
Wasn't there a comment on page 6 under the second bullet under the executive summary, or did you already respond to that?
If it was just comment, like commas, add commas in and periods, I went in and changed those. So that way, because they weren't really comments, but I didn't have anything here.
Oh, I thought I had maybe, yeah, I'm never so good with Google Docs. This issues of risk elements, specific scoping and temporal spatial scales, that was an addition that was highlighted. And I thought I had put a comment in there that it was very, I didn't actually understand what that point made or what point was trying to be made. It definitely doesn't have to do with the first sentence. It's a different point than the first sentence. It's got to do with being precise in your wording. What do you mean when you say risk? And I would, if it needs to stay in this spot, I mean, in this executive summary, which I don't think it does, I would reword it and make it sound more like the rest of the summary, which is very straightforward and user friendly. I would actually, I thought I had put in the Google Doc that there was a place to move it to in the risk versus hazard definitions section to move it to a different place and take it out of the executive summary. But I think it's kind of weird where it is.
Where is that, Celeste? I'm not seeing it.
Second bullet, second sentence.
Oh, different document here.
Yeah, it was in the Word document. It didn't quite make it over to the Google document. So this is the comment for moving it.
Maybe when I hit, but just in general, there's a place that it could go to in the risk versus hazard section that it fits better on page 10 where they start talking about data products and their intended use. It's maybe a good place to start talking about the need for spatial and geographic specificity when you're using risk. But in the executive summary, I think it's a bit of an outlier, and it definitely doesn't relate to the first sentence in that bullet. So I guess I'm interested in what the group thinks.
And actually, that's one of those slides, if you can go back to it. I thought that was highlighted in this original document. Isn't that one that Dave had added in? No, it's not.
It was highlighted in the version that I was looking at.
Maybe
So-
it didn't get highlighted in the transfer over as
Or
much as we
may-
tried to highlight everything.
Maybe I messed it up, but whatever. It's the second sentence there, issues of risk elements, specific scoping and temporal and spatial scales need to be defined. Like that's just, I would propose rewording that and moving it to page 10 when we're talking about risk versus hazard. It goes pretty well after that other yellow section. There's a sentence that says it's important to begin any risk characterization or categorization project with clarity regarding the desired goals. That sentence actually makes a lot of sense in context after that, but in the executive summary, it doesn't. So I would just move it, but or that would be my recommendation for the group's consideration.
Anybody else? Again, it's just an ad. We can move it around or get rid of it, or
I mean, it's a little overly verbose at some point, so I can understand
yeah.
what Nancy's suggesting.
This is Robert. I support what Nancy's suggesting, moving it, because I think with the other context, I think it makes a lot more sense.
Okay, so let's just go down to page 10 where we want to move it to, and we can copy that down there and put it so we make sure we get it in the right place.
So I would put it after the word goals, and I think I might have even stuck a comment in there and said how I thought it could be worded. But I'm such a Google Docs dummy that I might have done it wrong. There we go. Further, the term risk can be overgeneralized and used ambiguously. So within a given context, it must be well defined in terms of time and geographic scale. So I took the original sentence, reworded it and that way, and moved it to after desired goals. So you could use the old wording or my wording or something in between.
I think yours is much easier to read. It means the same thing in my opinion, so that would be my vote, that we swap it out, but what do other folks think?
Actuaries are known for being understandable and approachable people.
Aha, oh, there we go. Guys, saw Yana stick her thumb up. She's really good at making sure that we're trying to keep this thing where people can read it.
And yes, that was a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Is everybody good with that little tweak? Don't see
That
anybody.
look good?
Yes, and we can come back to the other comment there. So you took it out of the top, right, Celeste? So it's gone up there on page 6. Okay.
Yep.
Let's jump back up to page 8 then. That took care of those things. We can resolve that. Should be good. Very good. Thank you. Oh, page 8. Oh, yeah, you took it out there. Okay, very good. See, that one was just added in there again, and it is specifically talking to the data, so, describe risk, we could switch that to data components. I think it's whatever. I'm good either way personally. I like the 2 parcel level data since we are doing this parcel level, so I think that helps provide a little more clarity to just saying components. Anybody have any thoughts? Yana, Dave? Anybody? Deborah?
Well, it was my suggestion, so I thought it was fine.
Yeah, no concerns from my engine.
All right, let's swap that out, Celeste, to make sure everybody's happy with it. Not there, the first yellow one. I think it was swapping out the word component, right? No, it was, no, it was the parcel level data is what should have went there, I believe. Is that right, Nancy, or am I
Oh,
miss?
no. I was confused. Actually, I thought the first bullet was okay. The yellow bullet was fine the way it was. I don't have a problem with risk components, but
Okay,
access, secure access, in the context, I thought, does that mean to people's backyards or does it mean data?
yeah, I doing straight up data, absolutely.
So I
Yes.
stuck parcel level data in there.
Okay, perfect, and we'll keep those.
Sorry.
Okay. My bad, I was reading the comments incorrectly. I should just let Nancy talk about her comments, keep my mouth shut apparently, so. Yana, you have anything?
I don't know, secure access still seems a little strange. Is it, facilitate data access?
Yeah, but we've had these conversations too, and I know we've gone back and forth on this bullet numerous times about people providing their data but not being accessible to your neighbor, right? Accessible to the right people, but not.
Is it encourage property owners to share?
I mean, the underlying point is that we want to create a condition where the data about a property, residents are encouraged to submit it if they have it. And if someone else has it and has provided it, the property owners have the ability to see what data is being reported for their parcel. This really takes these things out of the black box. But to Nancy's point about secure, depending on who's submitting it and then potentially who's viewing it, there are going to be real concerns if you start providing property level access to third parties, and that secure is intended to address that. So the challenge really here is that we have a mix of a granularity mix about a resident needs to be able to see their parcel in great detail, so they can know, and they can, if errors are there, they can make corrections just like a credit report. But a community needs to see the aggregation of all that parcel level data to understand the community risk without breaking out each one of the individual parcels. So there's a need for an abstraction layer to provide some separation, because the parcel level data by itself is meaningless, but the community level data has no value if it's not made up of fine level parcel level data that needs to be obscured.
But the landowner has no mechanism to share that.
Lots of echo there, I'm not sure.
Well, you mean landowner has no ability to share the conditions on the ground, or what do you mean by that, Yana?
Meaning that the landowner would have to voluntarily agree to share that information. So that seems like a key step in this.
Well, yeah, it's one of two. I mean, it's one of a couple of ways data can get there, but there's,
I mean, maybe incentivize, encourage landowners to share parcel data for the benefit of community scale understanding.
I think all of this is like really delved into in the whole section about the data commons. I think someone felt that it was important to talk about this one use case in the executive summary.
It was a Department of Insurance thing, because what they don't want is for insurance companies to necessarily be able to get this kind of data and then make policy decisions based on data that is provided by a homeowner voluntarily to the government.
Thank you. That's helpful. So I think what we've said later in the report is that when inspections are done, the results of the inspections get put into a data commons. Now, who's doing the inspections? Maybe it's homeowners, maybe it's Firewise people, maybe it's fire chiefs, maybe it's insurance companies, lots of different places inspections, or CAL FIRE. So you don't, I don't think putting in some sort of homeowner position, permission thing in the executive summary is really, I'm not sure that would be the best idea, because that's not the way that we're talking about the data commons working. Like, inspections are already happening. But I think the Department of Insurance, per Robert's statement, wanted to make sure that fire protection personnel get access to the data.
So this is Deborah. I think that I wasn't on the call where this was discussed. I was out of town, but when I read it now, I guess the question is, allow secure access to whom, right? And so that it raises a question as to who is going to have access to this data, and what does it mean for it to be secure, and secure from whom and to whom. And so I think there's some ambiguity there that where I can, I understand Nancy's point, and then I also agree with Robert's point that we do want to be careful about releasing personal data to people who have not been approved by homeowners to receive that data. So I'm trying to think through how to massage the language to address all of those concerns, but I don't have a recommendation at this moment.
It seems like everyone involved in the data commons is going to have to work out pretty specific issues about access, and we've got a paragraph about that on page 51. And we all, I'm not sure if anyone objected to the way that the data commons idea was positioned. It seems like what's creating the problem is referencing it in the executive summary.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think not a big problem. I think, Yana, to your point, I know you and I worked on these bullets. I think the bullet above it, I think we're kind of looking at the one below. The bullet above it is specific, for property owners to promote transparency and understanding. And this is just saying to allow these fire protection, fire management personnel secure access to that information to help work through the mitigations within the community. So I think you have to look at both bullets, not just this third one as a standout, because I think the one above it leads into that to kind of provide clarity, at least for my reading of it.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The term secure access is a little fuzzy, and it's going to mean, to some people, it's going to mean in the data or internet world, it's going to mean HTTPS, a secure internet site. Do we mean something more like limited access or authorized access? Maybe that's all covered in the data commons, but
They're important pieces. And I think these are recommendations too. I think we know that this will get fleshed out in a deeper detail, exactly what secure access might mean if they go down this road. So, I don't know that,
How about determine appropriate levels of access?
that could be fine too. What's the group's thoughts? Leave it alone, or
This is
want to make it a
Joe.
little clear?
This is
Yeah,
Joe. Just jumping. I kind of like what Nancy just said, to be honest. I think, to your point, it's recommendations, and no one's going to give up information down the road if it doesn't go through a vetted process that's, scrutinized by a next level of bureaucracy or some other agency that's going to have to look at this. So I kind of think that tones it down a little bit and maybe takes away the fear that some may have aversion to, I guess is what I'll say.
Okay, so it looks like Celeste typed in there what she got out of it, and I would agree that we would change allow secure to appropriate levels of access to parcel level data? Does anybody have a problem changing it to that? I guess silence is a positive.
Looks good.
But I think you need a verb. So I think you would say
Allow.
allow or determine appropriate levels. Allow is fine, yeah.
Very good.
You know, just kind of thinking about that last piece there, the appropriate levels is actually referring to the security of the data. That's the intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it probably actually needs to say something along those lines, because appropriate levels of access just means, to me anyway, it means like, you know, somebody at the fire department has it, but not necessarily, you know, I think what the point that we're trying to get across is not everybody at the fire department has access to it, you know, people who are vetted and all that. So it has to be access given to people with appropriate levels of security, because like in the public sector, we have classified and non-classified employees. The classified employees are allowed to look at sensitive data where the non-classified are not, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just a thought on it. I'm because it's in the executive summary, I don't think it's super important, but if the intent is to get it read that you're talking about the security of the data, then security of the data probably needs to be kind of spelled out a little bit better.
Okay, just let me throw a thought to the group before I forget it. How about allow appropriate security levels to access parcel level data? Does that kind of help Robert a little bit? Appropriate levels.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking it.
Take out the
needed to
of
be.
access, Celeste, just for a second. See if it reads any better.
So like appropriate levels of security to access the data.
Yeah, that's fine. Levels of security to allow, yeah, just switch it after levels, take security and put it behind it, of security.
Do you need,
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
does the word access need to get back in there before parcel level?
Yeah, I think what it was allow appropriate levels of security to access parcel level
There you go. Thank you.
data.
Good catch. Yep. Robert, did that get it for you? Just getting the words in the right
It
spot.
does, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, this is one Jan and I messed around with too. Again, it was just trying to make sure that FHSC is really about hazard and not risk. Nancy, I'll let you talk about what you added here.
I just once again thought it was a little bit confusing, and so I tried to make it read in a little simpler fashion, although I might have oversimplified. So
I think oversimplified is okay in this because it was Jan and I couldn't figure out how to make this very simple, to be honest with you.
okay.
Well, and just for clarity, this didn't come from either of us. This is a comment that was submitted, and we thought because it was in the, it's got a bunch of ideas commingled in here, so we thought we'd bring it to the group so that you all could have a chance to put your mark on it and feel good about what might be said. There were a lot of comments that came in, so.
Or delete
Some
it,
were really-
whatever y'all think.
I mean, I just reworded it. And my wording is in the comment, data products like the FHSC maps can be misunderstood as showing risk when they are only showing hazard, which is only a component of risk.
Yeah, I think that summed it up for me. I don't know about the rest of the group, so I think that's a better sentence than what's in there. Lots of thumbs up there, Celeste, so. All right, everybody good with that? All right, very good. Nancy. I think that just needed to be moved up as a continuation of that other paragraph rather, it could have, I don't know, I
Right.
got broke out.
It was,
Yeah.
it was fine to be a separate paragraph. It didn't need to be a sub bullet. That's all. And I'm not smart enough to figure out how to make, ooh, see? Celeste knows.
West is. Okay. And it'll change when we take it out of Google and put it back into Word, but I have to check it again. So, Nancy.
I must have, and I apologize if this has been around for a while, but this sentence is about models, and the whole section is not about models. It's about mitigating wildfire risk. The section on models is, I think, section 4 or 5. So if we wanted to talk about models being scaled appropriately to capture the impact of mitigation, and we thought that wasn't covered in section 5, we can stick it in section 5, but I thought it was a non sequitur where it was.
It doesn't kind of fit there really. So let me make the decision. Everybody gets to think about it. Do we want to just take it out or do we want to move it? What's the group want to do? Or make sure it's mentioned down below, which I think it was, but.
I was okay with taking it out, but I didn't put it in the first place. So there may be an intent to it that someone thought was important, and I'd certainly be open to putting it in the right place.
Dave, I think you probably worked on a lot of this. I know it's been edited a million times, but.
Yeah, I don't remember how this got in there. I'm looking at the drafts right now.
I guess the question is, does anybody have a strong opinion about leaving it in?
I do not.
No.
Okay. This is another one that Dave Sapsis kind of recommended. Yana and I were challenged with the words a little bit, so we kind of threw a thought in there. Not that it is anything we're stuck to, but we did think it's important when Yana and I were talking about what Dave put in there to understand that, you know, when fires start burning home to home, they kind of take on their own intensity and their own little life rather than, you know, that burn differently than when wildland is intermixing with homes rather than a full home to home ignition. Once you get into that type of thing, but it's a little bit of a challenging sentence, we thought, so we just left it for the group there. But it is a very important piece, I thought, that maybe kind of got left out that I think we all wanted to bring up, bring to the forefront that you're dealing with a different kind of fire at that point, and what's contributing to the spread of that fire once it does get into those structural fuel components.
This is Deborah. I noticed that sentence was in a slightly different voice than the rest of the document,
Yeah.
and I had to read it a couple times to understand it.
Yes. Yes, totally.
So yeah, I mean, but once I understood it, I think I agree that it should be in there. So it does seem like it might need a little bit of wordsmithing.
That's funny, Deborah, because I read it and I go, yeah, that's exactly right. But to your point, that doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's very approachable.
It's the lay reader versus the fire expert, right?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think Jan and I were both kind of the same way, but we couldn't think up the words ourselves either.
To me, it's mostly the second sentence that's a little confusing or maybe wordy. I wonder if the second sentence could say something like, consequently, it's important to account for different thresholds to preclude structure to structure fires and so on. I mean, that's my read of it. It's just that it's a different beast, right? And so we got to keep in mind that there's a different set of thresholds or a different set of mitigation measures that are needed to deal with that.
Yeah, that's piece of it too. But I think, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of read it that it kind of gets back to this, how much mitigation do you have to do to either have an effect or not have an effect, right? So the first part, I think, is clear to your point. I think the second part gets a little bit, that second sentence gets a little challenging because it says you need to consider a threshold scale of mitigations to preclude structures from increasing spread and intensity. So it's to me, it's very good statement, but it's hard to read, right? Because it just doesn't, it's not the tone in the rest of this document. But what, it's related to those, somebody needs to decide and account for how much mitigation's been done, and does that affect spread within that community and intensity, right? So.
Well, I think part of the problem is exactly what you said at the end there, Jim, is that someone needs to decide that. What we're really describing here, I think in in very accurate and succinct language, is Jack Cohn's WUI disaster sequence. But missing in that is Jack Cohn never says what it is that gets you to stage 5 and stage 6 in a sequence. That as far as the threshold amounts, he just describes the steps, not the triggers that lead you to each step. And I think this accurately conveys that point. And some of the challenges we're having right now probably stems from the fact that those threshold amounts of mitigation are not well understood at the community scale, and there is no community designation. And there's an enormous amount of variability depending on fuel type, structure type, SSDs, the consistency of edges between the nodes. And all of those things are relevant to the transition from veg fire to structure fire, the urban conflagration. I mean, at least for me, tone and voice here notwithstanding, I think it's going to be really hard to make these two sentences more approachable without turning each one of them to a paragraph on its own.
I think, Dave, if I can, I think if we just added some subject verb agreement and made it a little bit less passive voice, we could get there fairly easily. So I mean, I would say like for the first sentence, hazard changes in WUI areas, I think there's a verb missing there. So is it vary dramatically or change dramatically, or I don't know what they do dramatically, but there's something that they need to do? Or is it that the hazard changes? So I don't actually see where the the subject is in the verb in this sentence. So is it that as hazards change in the WUI, or is it like that the inclusion of structural fuels in the WUI changes hazards dramatically? I mean, it's really about moving the words around so that there's so that we know who's doing what and what is being affected.
Yeah.
And
So
then
how about,
yeah, go ahead.
let's tackle the first one. So
Mhm.
hazard, so I mean, the question is, are we, hazard, I think actually means something other in this case. So we say risk changes in WUI areas, or sorry, risk in WUI areas changes dramatically with the inclusion of structural fuels contributing to both increases in intensity in the production of firebrands. And if we just hold on that first sentence for a second, Deborah, does that help your point?
I think that helps a lot. I think the introduction of the word firebrands, I think this is the first time that we see it in the document, but I can't guarantee that. I don't think but if it is the first time that we see it, I don't think it's defined. And so I don't know if there's a different word that we could use that's more consistent with what other words have been used.
We can say embers. Firebrands is just lifted from the language
Yeah.
about structural spread, but embers is, for our purposes here, are the exact same thing.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great. I think that people who aren't as familiar will understand embers better than firebrands. Yeah, so risk in hazard, risk.
Take out hazard.
Take out hazards, yeah.
Risk in WUI areas changes dramatically.
And can we say like maybe that contribute to, is it the structural fuels are contributing, or is it the risk that's contributing?
The fundamental point here is there's a breakover when so 3 pathways, right? Veg to veg, veg to structure, structure to structure. There's a critical breakover point where structures are the fuel most likely to carry the fire. And at that point, there's an exponential increase in flux and ember production. And flux not only in watts per meter squared, but watts per meter squared over time. It's just a fundamentally different fuel. And there's a breakover point where there are more houses burning than there are firefighters to stop them. And then it becomes an unstoppable conflagration that burns until it runs out of fuel or the wind stops. And that's, that's the Oakland Hills, the Berkeley Hills, Paradise, Coffee Park, etc.
Yeah.
I think those changes made it read a lot better. What do folks think? Because we do have about 15 minutes, and not to rush everybody, but
Jim, I mean, you have really good language right here on the side. Is that
Yeah, I like
substantially different from?
I like what Jim's got in the comment box better than what's in the yellow.
Can we take the third word of the second sentence and strike engages and insert becomes established in?
which piece are you talking about, Dave? In that over there?
Once wildfire engages structures, suppression becomes more challenging. So we could say once wildfire becomes established in structures, suppression becomes more challenging.
Okay, hang on one second. Let me get this on paper here so I can work with something.
And I think understated, we want to say overstated.
Okay, so structural fuels. And then what do you want to change again, Dave?
Why you got to bring up old stuff?
What? I'm trying to, I'm trying to get them all.
I know. And which one are you editing? Sorry, I'm bouncing back here on screens.
This one that Jim put in off to the right in the comments. So you said here once wildfire engages.
You're editing it in blue now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the second sentence in blue, where it begins once wildfire starting, and take out engages. And let's write becomes established in. And then suppression becomes more challenging. And then the importance of, I think we want to say overstated, not understated, at the end of the third sentence.
Yeah, it should be overstated. Yeah.
I'm not saying overstated. Where should
That's
it?
the
No,
last-
understated, the last word.
Okay, should be overstated. Okay, thank you. And
Are
we like
folks good
this
with
sentence.
replacing that with the yellow? Nancy, I see your hands up.
Yeah, you just pointed out that this meeting ends in 12 minutes. And
Yeah.
by my calculations, we're about a quarter of the way through. So can we talk about what the plan is? Because I'm definitely going to be off in 5 minutes. Do you want to have another meeting for voting? Or like, what's the plan if we're not done editing in 12 minutes? Or you're going to try to stay late and keep people on, or what? I just need to, if you were looking at rescheduling, I just wanted to make sure I was here for the discussion. I have a person who can stay on and proxy vote in my place.
Yeah, time has been getting away from me for sure. It's taking longer than I thought. I didn't think there was that many comments in there left, but
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not trying to rush the group, but if you want to have a discussion about what happens if you stay past the hour, I'd like to be on for that. And if everybody's good and you're just going to keep going, I have a proxy. She can vote for me. I would vote for it right now. I'm not worried that the group is going to do something I don't agree with.
okay. So I guess that's a really good point. Can folks stay on a little bit longer, or does everybody have to go? Because we can't lose our quorum. So
Yeah.
I
have
cannot,
to go three.
I cannot stay on.
I have to go at 3.
okay. Well, let's get through as much as we can then, and we may have to schedule another meeting just for voting. I know it's challenging to get on everybody's schedule, but I think the other comment, this was kind of the last one that I think had a lot of talk about it. I think the other ones were pretty short. If I remember when I went through it. So is
How
the group,
close are we on the quorum? I mean, if, was that 3? I might be part
we have to have
yeah.
9.
Yeah, we have everyone. If we lose 3 people, we're still in a quorum. So. Just,
Is the group okay with continuing, or? Carol?
I'm okay with continuing as long as we don't run afoul of Bagley Keene.
Yes, okay. Carol?
Yeah,
Carolyn?
I do have to drop, and I just had one tiny little edit I wanted to make to the one utility paragraph. It's more grammar. We currently use the number 8 in the document, but I think less than 10 should be written out as the word 8. But other than that, I'm good to drop off, and you guys can vote without me.
Okay, Celeste, you have that?
yeah, I do.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you all.
So what's the group think before we lose anybody about changing this piece out? I know it's the last big addition in there. We're good with
Jim,
the edit?
How do we think about leaving it just as it's written now and not replacing? Because it's slightly duplicative. On the other hand, the threshold element that's included in the yellow part but is not included in the blue below, I think is important. Really
Right.
important, because there's a breakover point, right? So it's not a linear line. It makes a big jump once you get into the WUI disaster sequence.
Yeah, that piece was just in there that we put over there, Yana and I, to try to make it simpler, but
I mean,
but-
so then maybe Dave, you and I can go through this. You can explain to me in since I feel kind of stupid reading these sentences and not understanding them entirely. Maybe we could just amend
that'd be
it
fine.
slightly. Okay, so I think the first sentence now makes sense. So now consequently a major consideration, because you have a major consideration accounting for something, which doesn't flow grammatically. So
right.
maybe it's consequently you could just take out a major consideration. Consequently, to avoid structure involvement, one must
this.
consider threshold scales of mitigation or something like that. So
I agree.
there's okay.
So let's take out major consideration. Great point. And then let's add large scale structure involvement. Because the scale matters. And that's not currently mentioned. It's implied but not mentioned.
Okay, so consequently, to avoid large-scale structure involvement, one must take into account threshold scales of mitigation.
absolutely.
Okay. To include structures, right? Okay, yeah, that works for me now.
And then take
Did I
out the
get that?
4 after account. There's a 4 after account. Yeah, it should come out. I'll play with that. We just got too many. We say structure too many times, but I think I'll without getting too wordy. I'll give you a sentence for that. And give me a minute to think when we get done here. I'll send to you.
Okay,
Celeste.
I will open it up for you, Dave, to edit in there. So if you want to edit right in the document.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move down then. Data access.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, this was indented. I remember this and this got added, but I wasn't sure if it was a direct like quote from that they used the whole thing or if the indenting just needs to be fixed.
It just needs to be fixed.
Okay, so I can fix this, no problem. I didn't want to fix because you tend
Yeah.
to indent over 4 lines.
Yeah.
Depending on the way you cite. So I just wanted to make sure that that was not a direct quote. It was an interpretation. Okay, so I can fix that.
Yep.
And Nancy's asking for a source here.
We can put a source in that, Nancy. That's not a big deal.
That'd be Molly now, but okay.
What they're talking about there are watershed resources. So we could just add the word watershed in there, or we could just take it out because this document's really not about watershed. So we could just end it at assets. What, Nancy, I don't know if you're still on or Nancy went away.
I think Molly's here.
I mean, I think it is a piece of what they do. They do add high value watershed resources. I don't know, what's your thoughts there? We just kill it or put watershed in there?
I like watershed.
Yeah, I think it
So where do you want me to add
high
watershed?
value watershed resources. Yeah. Is everybody good with that? It's just a clarity thing, so. Okay. Go ahead and accept it, Celeste. And just a few down here.
So this is just more of adding stuff in to make it a little cleaner. This is what Nancy sort of did here.
Has everybody had a chance to kind of look at that one? I think you have to go down a little bit, Celeste, to get the next line in. Yeah, things are just reworded and moved around for clarity. There's not any real changes there. So is the group good to accept those? Okay. I got
Yeah,
one
that
thumbs up. I don't hear
That's
any,
fine to me.
hear any no's.
Okay.
Okay. Good, accept them then, Celeste. Same thing. Yep. So this one here, folks, I know Nancy dropped off. This was just a suggestion from MJ. Celeste and I left it in there and we're responding back to her on some of the other ones anyway. We did feel it would be pretty challenging to cite anything, so we're just kind of using it in there. I don't know that we need to provide any additional sentences, but Deborah, do you have any thoughts on that? I kind of think it's pretty good to leave it the way it is, but I wanted the group to at least see MJ's comment and what they want to do with it.
Yeah, thanks. So I actually agree with Nancy's response here that we're sort of staying away from insurance pricing, and also we are in the middle of a regulatory proceeding to consider catastrophe modeling. So I would prefer to not get into any sort of details around who we're talking to, what we're talking about. I think that is better left to other documents.
Yeah, I personally agree. I just wanted get MJ was just so good to provide comments. I just wanted to show it to the group. So perfect.
Definitely.
We'll leave that alone. Thank you very much. We took care of those. That just updated. I think we already cleaned that up above, remember? We took care of that problem.
That's it.
I think that's it.
That's
Dave, you're
it.
back on the mark.
Hey, it's
Dave.
2:59.
We did it. There we. Dave, did you work on that sentence?
No, I will. I gotta jump on a call here at 3, but
Okay.
I'll make some edits and drop them. And I'll
Okay.
just make sure we don't say structures twice and within a quarter inch of each other on the page.
Right. Right. So with that, I know we're right up against time. Is everybody good with just Dave making that one correction there just to clean the wording up? I think the intent is there that everybody knows about. It's just some wording. So with that, if the group would like, I would entertain a motion to approve the document. Lots of thumbs going everywhere, but we need to
So
do the
moved.
approval
Robert,
process.
I heard somebody else move it. I think Yana moved it before I did, so I will second it with the condition of Dave's edit.
Very good.
Can I
Okay.
make a motion to amend that? I think that was Deborah that motioned it, but actually I think also with the trust of Celeste and the team, just to look for other edits and small items for clarity and formatting.
Okay. Thank you.
So who's first? Who's first in that?
Was it Deborah was the,
Yeah, I moved,
Okay.
but I agree with Robert's caveats and Yana's additions. And there were some places in there, like in the footnotes where it says link. So again, that sort of goes back to Yana's point, like there will be the links.
Yeah, and I will make sure that those get cleaned up. They got cleaned up when we pulled it out of Google Docs and put it into Word, into PDF, and then they've kind of got lost again. But before anything gets finalized, final, it's gonna all get fixed and updated, and the formatting will be good.
and we'll make sure to send the group the final PDF document. And if there's something's in there, just let us know. But the Word one looked really clean the other day. It just gets really messed up when we throw it in Google Docs. So. Yeah, we'll look at the graphics. They updated some of them, but yeah.
Yeah, I will fix graphics, all of that stuff. Everything will get cleaned up nicely.
Okay, any other discussion with the motion on the floor? Okay, all those in favor of approving the document?
Real quick, Jim, do you have to ask
Yes.
for public comment?
No, is there any other comments? There's a motion on the floor, so is there any comments? Yes, correct. Yeah. Anybody have any additional comments on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, roundtable. I know we're a little over time here, but does anybody have anything they'd like to add? We will get that cleaned up and send it back out. And so you can just, if you see something less than I missed, just shoot us an email. Again, I think this group's agreed and with the motion that we're just doing any minor piddly cleanup. References and stuff like that, to Deborah's point. Okay. Any public comment? I'm not seeing any. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Robert.
Robert, thank you. Second?
This is Dory. I'll second that.
Thank you, Dory. Okay. Any other comments just before I know everybody will jump off when I vote here. So again, thanks everybody for all the effort and the good discussion today again to get it really where we want. And appreciate everything you've done and all the work. And we'll get you another copy of it. And then we'll work through our internal process about getting it posted on our website. So that's kind of the next steps. But with that, all those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you again all very much. And we will be getting you another updated version for yourself. But please do take a look at it. If we miss something grammatically, we've been more than happy to clean that stuff up and get it where it needs to be because we want it as good as it possibly can before it goes public. So appreciate everybody's time and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.